Good evening. Welcome to all of you. Today we have a very important dignitary, I would say, for us, Gujaratis. His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett. Actually, he is a Kenyan politician, currently Kenyan ambassador to India. Earlier, he was the agriculture minister in Kenya. And that post he held from 2015 to prior to come here. And earlier he was managing director of a Kenyan seed company. So he has a background of agriculture, which is a major thing in Africa, not only in Kenya, but everywhere in Africa. The KES is a very big company. It's a very big organization with 5 billion KES, and this profit is more than 50 million. If we see Gujarat, we have so many traditional businessmen. As we were discussing in the boardroom, he mentioned that he has a photograph with Gujarati Association businessman in 1938 in Nairobi. So it is now almost 80 years. As we know that Africa and Gujarat have been doing business since many, many years. But as of now, Africa as a whole and Kenya in particular is now opening up. There are a lot of business opportunities, and to explore this, AMA is taking a delegation of 11 industrialists from Gujarat, mainly from Ahmedabad, but having a presence in Africa and worldwide. So they are from different industries. It is from pharmaceutical, packaging, plastic, chemical, finance, merger, joint venture, acquisition, services, agri, healthcare. So each different industry, and there we will be meeting in Tanzania and Kenya, the Indian embassy, to understand the business opportunities in those countries. We will also be meeting the local business owned chamber, investment centers, and the ministers. And we are very happy. I'm very happy to mention that His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett helped us a lot. And Mr. Sanyal Desai, who is also a part of our delegate, he is conducting the Agri-Asia, Agri-Africa, Agri-Tech Africa every year there. So he has been coordinator for the Kenya visit from the Ahmedabad Management Association side. So first of all, I will welcome His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett with a bouquet of flowers on behalf of all of us. I request Professor Indira Parikh, as Mrs. Bett is also here, so we can offer a bouquet of flowers to her also to welcome. I think I will request Sanyal Bhai to come over and then take over the proceedings now.
Thank you, Raju bhai. First of all, His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett, thank you so much for accepting AMA's invitation to come and speak on business and investment opportunity in Kenya. Basically, I would like to share my experience. We have been doing agriculture technology exhibition in India since almost 2010, and we started conducting Agritech Asia in Gandhinagar almost from 2010 onwards. And we started with this journey, and then put a lot of exhibitors as requested to focus on Africa, because we all know that next 30-40 years belongs to Africa as a business. And as a Gujarati businessman in my blood, we thought to start our journey in Africa. And we moved around to so many countries. We went to Nigeria, we went to Ghana, a lot of East African nations also. But when basically we landed in Nairobi, the kind of positive vibration which we got, the kind of support which we got, we decided to start our journey from Kenya itself. When we started our journey, we thought that every year we will move to some other African countries. But the kind of support His Excellency has given to us, because when we were starting our journey. His Excellency was the Agriculture Minister of Kenya. And because of his support, we have grown. Not only support, sometimes as a businessman, you need support in terms of a lot of authorities to value your subject, a lot of interaction with government agency, because any India or any outside Kenya is going there to visit, they need safety, they need some kind of understanding with the Ministry of Agriculture, and that support has been given by His Excellency, and because of his and his government supports, we have grown. So whenever I talk to anyone, I always consider Kenya as a investment opportunity, and I think we just came to know that one of our member from Chocolate Room also visited recently, and they also got the same feelings which we got about 5 years back. So again, His Excellency, thank you very much. And before I proceed, we have prepared one documentary on Mr. Bett's journey, which I would like to show to all of you.
Ambassador Willy Bett is the Kenyan High Commissioner to India. He was born in 1963 from the little village of Kaptel in Nandi County. Mr. Bett is a family man, married and blessed with 3 children. Prior to his appointment to the ambassadorial duties, His Excellency Bett served as the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries and Blue Economy in President Uhuru Kenyatta's first term as President of the Republic of Kenya. At the time of his appointment to the cabinet, Mr. Bett was serving as the Chief Executive Officer, Kenya Seed Company, a position he held for 6 years between 2009 and 2015. During his tenure, the company's financial performance grew significantly from a turnover of 2.9 billion in 2011 to 5 billion in 2015 and increased profits 9-fold during the same period from 50 million in 2011 to 434 million in 2015. That definitely wouldn't be achieved without a plan. His Excellency Ambassador Willy Bett set up the Kenya Seed Strategic Plan for 2013 to 2018, which was and still is operational to date. Of course, such growth in business and an eye for the future was greatly aided by his wisdom and an understanding of the economy and business management. His Excellency has a background in economics and sociology from the University of Nairobi and a Masters of Business Administration with a major in marketing from the same university. His previous jobs also had a hand not only in his managerial prowess but also in his fine understanding of strategic and change management. His Excellency is not new to going up the ladder. He joined Postbank as a management trainee in 1991, just after completing his undergraduate studies. This was the time when Postbank Credit was making baby steps in transitioning into a fully fledged commercial bank, and he was involved in drafting its turnaround plan. Known for his keen attention to detail and hunger for success, His Excellency Bett was promoted to Finance Officer, Debtors Department, where he was tasked with making sure that debtors repaid the debts on time, a role that he executed so well to the commendation of his seniors. A year later, he was elevated to Planning Officer and was tasked with the development of the bank's business blueprint for business growth. His engineered blueprint would lead to the growth of Postbank's branch network across the country. With the growth of the bank's network and business, he was later promoted to the branch manager, where he served for 2 years before being promoted again to personal assistant to the managing director, a position that served as an eye-opener into leadership and business management for His Excellency Ambassador Willy Bett. After 3 years, he scaled new heights to head of marketing and business development, where he was involved in the growth of the bank through rebranding and communication. Important to note, he oversaw the growth of the STEP account, which grew at a rate of 40% when it was rebranded and given a youthful identity. Also, it is during his tenure that he developed the Premium Plus account when the bank was experiencing customer attrition. The Premium Plus account became a constant hit to net the bank 1.35 billion deposits in 4 months. With technological advancement and the need for the bank to grow its base, the bank needed a man who had a vision far beyond the local market, a man who could embrace the increasing technological advancements and place the bank to be one of the most reliable in terms of mobile money transfer. The bank looked no further than His Excellency Bett. he took up the position of Senior Manager Money Transfer Services. When you talk of MoneyGram and Western Union in Postbank, His Excellency Bett is the man behind the spontaneous awareness of the services. It is during his tenure that he surpassed the target set by the principal on Western Union branches that also was instrumental in increasing profits by 50%. Professionally, Mr. Bett has undergone several courses, including banking and credit courses by College of Banking and Finance, Global Remittance System by World Agents Conference of Western Union in France, Market Research for Microfinance by Microsave, Human Resource Management for Line Managers by TAC. In 2012, he attended the prestigious Advanced Management Program, jointly organized by Strathmore Business School in Nairobi, Lagos Business School in Nigeria, and IESE Business School in Barcelona, Spain. His Excellency Bett is a professional member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, Marketing Society of Kenya, and the Kenya Institute of Management. He is a former Vice Chair of the Board of the Seed Trade Association of Kenya and member of the Project Steering Committee Haploid Project under CYMMIT.
As you see, he's more of a technocrat rather than the politician. And without wasting much of our time, I present the man himself, His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett, please.
Sanyal, thank you for that introduction, which I did know you had gathered some information about myself all that time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really very excited to be with you this evening. When it comes to Gujarat, I don't know why I become very fast in saying, yes, I will come there. When I think about Gujarat, maybe because I have a lot of friends of Indian origin in Kenya. And when you talk of an Indian in Kenya, you're actually talking of a Gujarati. And so I have a lot of friends of Indian origin, of whom are actually Gujaratis. And most of them, when they tell me their ancestors came from Gujarat, then I get the enthusiasm and the eagerness to know where they come from. And so this is almost my 8th time to come to Gujarat. So today I'll be sharing with you about the opportunities available in Kenya, not only for the Indian community, but specifically for the Gujarati community. When you talk of the business between Kenya and India, you are specifically talking of the business between the Gujarati community and actually Kenya. Because over 90% of the Indians in Kenya are actually of the Gujarat origin. And so let me begin by some introduction, which again is what I've said. India and Kenya have had a very long history, dating back into the 17th century. The people of Gujarat have defined the relationship between Kenya and India. And I want you to look at that photograph. Those are the Gujarati Association in the 1938. It may not be very clear. It is 1938, an association of Gujaratis who was, I'm sure it is just a group who could be even the officials of the association, but it shows how far the Gujarati community have actually settled in Kenya. And that's why I say the Gujarati community defines the relationship between Kenya and India. So my presentation is going to be in 3 parts. What I will do is to give you a review of the trade and investment relationship between Kenya and India in the last 10 years. How has it been like? And then I will move to why invest in Kenya. Here I will make a broad assessment of the investment climate and the incentives which the government of Kenya is giving investors, and in this case, the Gujaratis, to come and invest in Kenya. And finally, a new paradigm, investing in the big 4 priority areas. As a government, we have set our priorities, and these are the areas where government has designed and programmed some incentives, where any investor would really enjoy those incentives when it invests in those 4 priority areas. Now, this is a very interesting graph, which I would want all of you to look at. I don't know how the color is appearing in the board, but I'm sure you will distinguish between the line which represents India, which is the first one. That is the blue. Is that a blue? I am poor in colors. Should be a blue color. That is the color of representing India. The other color represents China. The one which is, what color is that? Red or orange, something like that. And then the other one is representing UAE. Those are the 3 key trading partners of Kenya, which I would want to compare for purposes of my argument today. In 2008, India was a number 1 trading partner of Kenya. But then look at how the flow has been going. Follow that graph. From 2014, things started changing. Competition started setting in. Our other friends started coming in and surpassing India. And so, what I'm trying to say is India is a traditional trading partner of Kenya. But the situation has changed over time. A situation which, as an High Commissioner here in India, would want to change. And that is why I'm here, and that is why I go to other areas of India, to communicate new opportunities, and to communicate to you new incentives, and to tell you the changes in that part of the world which needs businessmen to take advantage of. And I'm here to tell you that the potential is there. The Indian community has seen it. But it is time to reverse the situation and even double the highest we ever met between India and Kenya. Why am I saying that? Even the leadership of Kenya and India have noticed it. We have had high-level visitations. President Uhuru Kenyatta has come to India twice during his first term in office. He has even come to Gujarat for the Vibrant Gujarat. Narendra Modi ji came to Kenya, and he had a wonderful time, and he came to realize, and he was even shocked to see the number of Gujaratis who are in Kenya. He had an opportunity to go to our biggest stadium in Nairobi to address the Gujarati community, and the stadium was full. So with that kind of high-level visitation, it means the goodwill between the government of Kenya and the government of India is there. What only remains is for the business community to take advantage of that goodwill and do business. That leads me to my next, where I am saying, why invest in Kenya? Or generally, let me still continue and say, India was the biggest, and I've said that. But now it is drifting. We need to reverse that situation. In 2018 alone, over 129 Indian companies invested a total of 317 million in Kenya. That is in 2018. There is the opportunity to invest more. And where is that opportunity? I would want the Indian business community not to look at Kenya as a unitary country. Look at Kenya as a member of the East African community. Look at Kenya as a member of the COMESA, and look at Kenya as a signatory to the new agreement which is going to make Africa one common market. What that means is Africa is going to be available as a market and as an investment destination with a population of 1 billion people. So I know that does not surprise you because India is 1.3 billion people. But the next frontier globally in terms of investment and trade is in Africa. Everywhere else is saturated. Now, I urge the Indian business community to take advantage of their first mover advantage and reestablish themselves in the African region, say that as these agreements of common market come into force, they are the first ones to take advantage of that. Now, why invest in Kenya? I have said again, and I'll repeat it, Kenya to you is like home. Because the businessmen who are available in Kenya or who are doing business in Kenya at the moment are actually Indian. So it would not be a new ground for you. It will be home for you. We are one of the leading economies in Africa. Kenya is the largest and the most progressive economy in East and Central Africa. And it is the fifth economy in Sub-Saharan Africa. We have a strong growth prospects, and we are projecting a growth GDP rate of 6%. I know India is in a very high growth trajectory, but that is not common to many countries now. Even if we look at most countries, any country growing above 5.5 is a country to look at and look at very seriously. And so Kenya's projection of growth rate of 6% is a clear indicator that that is a place you would want to set foot on. And then again, while you set foot on that country, it gives you the opportunity to, as a springboard, to look at the rest of Africa. In Kenya, again, we have developed our ease of doing business to a level where we are now number 61. And this one thanks to a one-stop shop kind of model. You don't need to go to various institutions or offices for you to start your business. We have the Ken Invest Authority, where when you land there, you get all the information you require as far as investment is concerned. And therefore, that is a very big advantage which we have, and which we have built so that we make it easy for investors to come and invest. The other issue is the political and macroeconomic stability. Kenya's economy has been proven to withstand shocks. I will give you one example. The most critical shock in an African continent and most other developing world is the political shock. Most countries have gone down the drain because of political upheavals. In Kenya, our last general elections, which we did it a year ago, it is the only country in Africa, and I think almost in the world, where we did elections twice. We voted, the president won, the competition said, no, it was not, well, they went to court. The court said, yes, we agree, go back to voting again. That alone in Africa is unheard of. But the president of Kenya said, yes, let us go back to vote again. We went, we voted again, and the president won. During that time, the Nairobi Stock Exchange, when it was announced that the court has nullified elections and we are going back to voting again, we had to close the Nairobi Stock Exchange. But the following day, when the president announced that we are going back to vote again, the trading in the Nairobi Stock Exchange increased by 5%. That is to say, the economy of the country is actually not dependent on political situations. We have proved it to withstand such shocks. And so we have an economy in the country which is built on solid fundamentals. The other issue is strategic location. The location of Kenya in the Indian Ocean can never be a better place for an Indian businessman. I want to say we are not separated by the Indian Ocean, but we are connected by the Indian Ocean. Because the movement from India to Kenya by sea, I think is almost the shortest, if you can think about that. Even the traders, the Indian traders who came to Kenya, were just using the monsoon winds to sail to the East African coast. And therefore, our position in the Indian Ocean is a very good location for trade between Kenya and India. And so when you think of Africa, you easily think of Kenya to set foot on and then start looking at other countries to do business with. The other issue is the wide market access. And here I mean the membership of Kenya and its leadership role in the East African community, in the COMESA region, and in Africa as a whole, gives any investment in Kenya access to markets of the East African region, the COMESA region, and also the African region. And as I told you earlier, the earlier you set foot in Kenya, the earlier you will take advantage of the newly perceived and realistic agreement which is coming into force very soon of making Africa one market country. And finally is the infrastructure. Again, if you look at the entire Africa, where there is a robust growth in the infrastructure is in Kenya. If you talk of technological infrastructure, I think we are leading not only in Kenya, but most countries in the world. We are good in technology. The fiber optic came into Kenya a long time ago. The connectivity in Kenya is one of the fastest. I've traveled to quite a number of countries, and sometimes I wonder whether I'm in the developed world when I start surfing in the internet. The speed in Kenya definitely becomes much better than most of the developed world which I have traveled. Of course, I don't mean India, but I've traveled to other countries and realized that Kenya's connectivity is much, much faster and better. When you look at even the road network, investments by government in the infrastructure has really developed so much. The rail network, the standard gauge railway now, which has been built between the coast to the hinterland of Kenya, is opening up the entire region. Pan-African initiatives as far as infrastructure is concerned is in progress, where the railway and road network between Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and all the way to West Africa is almost getting complete, to the extent that from the port of Mombasa, you can access the rest of Africa. The Kenya Airways, being a serious mode of transport, and its connectivity within Africa is putting Kenya at an edge in terms of air connectivity. So there would be no reason why you should not invest in Kenya. Now, the third concept which I want to discuss with you is a new frontier or the new areas, what I'm calling the Big Four. This is where this is a new government initiative, the new government focus, the new government agenda, of which we are pitching investment in these areas. This is the area where government has designed specific incentives so that we can develop these sectors. The first one is in the manufacturing sector. Investment opportunities in this area is in the area of warehousing, cold chain sites, and food hubs projects. We are looking at oil and gas mining projects. We are looking at leather processing. We are looking at iron and steel projects, fish feed mills, PPO sites, and textile and apparel industries. These are the areas where government is currently focusing on in the first agenda of manufacturing. One reason is that Kenya wants to create employment for its people. And we can only create employment if we encourage investment in the manufacturing sector. And we have designed benefits say that as Kenya benefits in terms of job creation, the investor benefits in terms of profits. And as I said earlier, Kenya is one country where repatriation of profits is not in question even for 1 minute. We have a history of protecting private property. And any property by any investor in Kenya, you rest assured that the laws of the country will protect you and protect your investment. The other agenda, as far as the Big Four is concerned, is investment in the food and nutrition security. Here, we want Kenyans to be food secure and nutrition secure in the next 5 years. What I would say here, having been the Minister for Agriculture, where actually I was part of the people who designed this agenda, is the fact that Kenya is interested to know the kind of technology India has managed to use to build its agricultural activity to the extent that India is able to feed 1.3 billion people without a problem. This is an area where India can bring out its expertise and actually invest in Kenya, and as much as helping Kenyans be food secure, you also make money for yourself as an investor. Here we are looking at government having set aside acreages for you to come and lease and produce either any crop which you come and do your research and realize this is the crop you would want to produce in the country, as long as it's a food crop. So 700,000 acres are available for partnerships on a PPP arrangement so that production of food is undertaken. In the area of blue economy, and as you all know, we had the biggest blue economy conference in Kenya about 2 months ago, the first of its kind in the world. And almost all countries participated globally. We were happy for the high-level participation by India, where Minister Kadkuri represented India in the Blue Economy Conference, which happened in Kenya. So deep sea fishing is an area of, which is on offer. As we speak now, there's a lot of fish in the Indian Ocean, in the EEZ of Kenya, which we would want investors to come and put up fish plants and then go into the deep sea, fish, process the fish, and export it to wherever you want to export it to. Production of fertilizer. I know Bharat here is producing biofertilizer, isn't it? Yes, so there's an opportunity for fertilizer investment in Kenya, both chemical and non-chemical fertilizer. We would encourage mostly non-chemical fertilizer. So those opportunities are available in Kenya as we speak now. Potato processing is a specific investment opportunity available now, because potato production in Kenya is happening, but most of it is going to waste just because of lack of investment in the processing side of it, and also cold chain management. Say that you can put up some cold rooms and install a processing plant and then process all types of products arising from potato. That is a ready investment opportunity in Kenya as we speak now. And definitely irrigation facilities. We know there are many companies in India who are manufacturing irrigation equipment, irrigation infrastructure, and the kind of technology available in India is the most appropriate one for the farmers in Kenya. The reason being, Kenyan farmer and the Indian farmer is almost similar. We are both small-scale holder farmers. And so when we talk of irrigation, we are not talking of the irrigation infrastructure like the ones in Israel. Those are some of the mistakes we did in the past. We want to talk of appropriate technologies which can be adopted by smallholder farmers. And going around India, I've realized this is the most ideal technology. The one you use in India is the one we require in Kenya. And therefore, investment in that area, coming and doing production and irrigation, coming and investing in irrigation infrastructure itself, irrigation equipment, so that you can sell it to the farmers. That is an opportunity available in the agricultural sector. The other area, of course, which Kenya is also a powerhouse, is in the area of universal health care. What we are looking at is by the year or in the next 5 years, we want to provide a universal health care for all Kenyans. And for us to achieve that, it means there are certain investments which would require to be done at this point in time. We need investments right from the pharmaceutical area. We need investment in the area of medical insurance. We need investment in the entire medical field, because unless we have investments in all these areas, and including construction of high-level hospitals, it would become difficult for the country to achieve universal health care in the next 5 years. And so again, a lot of incentives have been designed for this area, of which we are inviting Indian business people to come and invest. In fact, I'm receiving on Sunday a delegation from Kenya who are coming to discuss with the Indian business people in the area of healthcare to see the people who are willing to partner in this area of healthcare. It is that serious. And the government is putting aside finances for that. So this is an area where we are looking at diagnostic centers, telemedicine, medical hubs, pharmaceutical industries, medical device industries, and hospitals themselves. So it is an area of major concern by the government of Kenya. And finally is affordable housing. That is Nairobi, which means there are many people now who are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas. And the most important thing a country would do is to ensure that its people live in dignity. And living in dignity is having the basic facilities, having a shelter for yourself, having food. And those are the areas where you are seeing the government focusing on. Housing, food, and things like that, employment. So in the area of housing, we are looking at developing 100,000 units per year. For the next 5 years, we want to develop 500,000 units of low-cost housing. Low cost so that the lower income people can afford to buy. What is happening here is government has even come up with structures on the funding models for the low-income Kenyans. In this way, when you put up low-cost housing in Kenya, you are almost guaranteed of the uptake, because there are already funding structures available for people to access so that they can purchase the low-cost housing. We want people with as low as 15,000 rupees to be able to get a mortgage and buy a house. That is the kind of structure which has been put in place in Kenya. And so when such kind of investment happens, you should not worry that I do my construction and then because government, and as you do this construction, there will be some arrangement even with the government for you to be comfortable that by the end of the construction, the uptake would more likely be guaranteed. And so the investment opportunity here is construction itself. The other investment opportunity is to construct 500,000 units requires various materials. So as a shrewd businessman, you want to know for these houses to be complete, they need cement. You can invest in the cement plant. It requires steel. You can invest in the steel manufacturing. It requires, so you look at construction industry and realize there are opportunities not only in the actual construction, but also in the manufacture of the various components of materials which are required to construct all that. So after that, I would want you to look at a small video about the Big Four, which is a government push to ensure that we focus on these 4 areas in the next 5 years. Thank you very much. The reason you must have seen who will be involved in that video, where it is saying the local government, the national government, and you'll also see local and foreign investors, and that is why I'm here. Because for us to achieve all what was displayed there, the component of foreign investment has to be a major player in it, and that is why I'm here, to stimulate the foreign investment so that as a country, we achieve what you have seen. In summary, therefore, Kenya, like India, is undergoing an economic takeoff. We are poised for rapid economic expansion from urbanization, industrialization, and technological advancement. The time to invest in Kenya is now. India, being our long-time trade and economic partner, should not be left behind as others enjoy the economic dividend from Kenya's rapid growth. Further, as Africa integrates into a single trade area, with the signing of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, you will need to be in Africa as soon as possible. To competitively do business with Africa, and Kenya is your natural choice, especially you from Gujarat. I don't think there is any other place where you can be welcomed much more than in Kenya. We are open for business, we listen, and we act. Kenya has gone up 19 places to 61 in World Bank ranking on ease of doing business, and is the 7th most improved country globally. We have to improve the way we do business. Let us go beyond our contacts in Nairobi and into the counties. The structure in Kenya is the national government and then the county government. Here in India is the national government and then the states. In Kenya is the county governments. What we are encouraging now is having linkages even direct to the county governments, so that investments can happen in the entire country. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would want to thank you most sincerely for listening to me and for, I believe, having convinced you that your next stop when it comes to investment is none other place but in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And before we end, we have a few minutes for some question and answer. If you have some question, you can ask. Yeah, please.
My name is Meet Wakil from Yeti Leather Products. We are making leather goods, leather accessories, wallets, bags, etc. And we have been selling globally. We have been selling globally, and since 5 years. My name is Meet Wakil from Yeti Leather Products, and we manufacture leather goods, leather accessories, and shoes. So we sell our products globally. Since 5 years, we have been selling in Kenya also, Nairobi. So, you know, like you have manufacturing is as a key component. You're pushing manufacturing. So any manufacturer who wants to invest will first test the product, right? The market, everything. So we did that and we were successful, and then we also have a plan to put up a factory in Nairobi, somewhere in Nairobi. So we have the project report. But the thing is grassroots level things are very different in Kenya. Like for example, the KEBS, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, what we have to go through in importing our merchandise there in Kenya, it's very cumbersome. So, like we sell in USA, we sell in China, we sell in Australia, we sell in Europe. But the Bureau of Standards that Kenya has, it's totally different and it's very difficult. So even if we put up a factory in Kenya, we'll still have to import things. It is not that we can make everything in China. Like the leather, the hardware, the lining, all that will still be imported, and we can set up the manufacturing plant. But off late, and this has happened.
Excuse me, can you be specific?
So how do you suggest that how you are going to help the industries which are going to set up this thing? Like what advantages, how can we go about it?
I think we can take 2 or 3 so that any other? Okay. Okay. Your concern is the issue of Kenya Bureau of Standards or the standards generally. What we are doing, and you realize leather is one of the key priority areas which we have put in there. The minute you show the interest of investing in the leather industry, what Kenya is doing now is to prioritize investment and the manufacture of products in the country. That one is being made very clear by the government of Kenya. For the products which will facilitate you to manufacture, Kenya is definitely going to make it easier for you to bring those products. And what would happen is any obstacle you face as far as doing that, it's important to put it in, formally, and then it will definitely be addressed, because I can say it authoritatively that when you are an investor in Kenya, and some components will have to be brought from outside so that it can support your manufacture in the country, you should be facilitated effectively. And even from Delhi, we should be in a position to help you sort out any obstacle you are facing. And so we are open for us to help you do that.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, there's a question which has been written here, the scope of Kenya supporting the growing of pigeon bee and short duration pulses using improved seeds. This one I can say it authoritatively because first I was a seed man myself, secondly I became the minister. You are invited yesterday. What you only need to do is for seed to reach Kenya, you have to link up with a seed company. That is the law. So you either register a seed company yourself in Kenya, or you use a seed company in Kenya to distribute your seeds. So if you have a superior variety of seed, you get in touch, and I would recommend that you use Kenya Seed, the company which I was leading at one time. What you do is you discuss with Kenya Seed, you test, there is a whole process of testing the seed, performance trials and all those things. And if it passes, it is released in the market and it can be grown. And there is an opportunity of investment here because you can become even a grower of these crops in Kenya and export it back to India or Bangladesh where the market is. So that one is available. And again, if you face any problem, we should be there to facilitate you. Castor oil crop. What I would want to say is any crop you want to grow in Kenya, there is no limitation. If you are bringing your own seed, there is a protocol. As I've told you, you just pass through a seed company or you register a seed company yourself, and then you come and test it in the country to see whether that seed you have developed is ideal for the environment. So I don't want to select. If you want to do any cropping in Kenya, it is open. If you are coming with your seed, there is a process of ensuring that that seed is acceptable in the country. And I've told you, pass through a seed company or register a seed company yourself. And then come and do performance trials to check and see whether whatever you want to grow can do well in the country. And there is no restriction to grow any crop in Kenya.
See, there is a question on e-vehicle. So, do you have plan for making e-vehicle, battery-operated vehicles in Kenya? And if somebody wants to put up a three-wheeler e-vehicle plant in Kenya, how is the possibility?
Yes, in fact, most investments now, which is taking root in Kenya, is vehicle assembly lines. We now have 3 vehicle assembly lines already put in place. One will be coming up soon by Mahindra, I think in the next 6 months. And the the priority is e-vehicle, because the hybrid vehicles now in Kenya is picking up. The market is now picking up the hybrid vehicle so well. So if you start investing in the e-vehicle now, then you are actually going ahead of the market, and the market for that product is, you will be a very successful investor. So I can tell you that is an opportunity available to assemble e-vehicle in Kenya.
Next question is, what is the scope of air conditioning market in Kenya? And talking about availability of power, kilowatt electricity cost, and fluctuation in the powers.
Air conditioning in Kenya, unless you are talking of cooling system, then the climate in Kenya is air conditioned already. I would want to, if you are coming to Kenya to put up a plan for air conditions, like to cool your houses and what have you, not much. Because it will only be around the coastal area where air conditions are required. Otherwise, in the other part of the country, there's a natural air conditioning. But there is cooling system requirements, big requirement in the area of cooling system for refrigeration and for crops, perishable crops to be frozen to reach the market. So refrigeration, yes, but air conditioning for housing, I will tell you, please don't do that unless you are doing it at a smaller scale, only to service a small market area, or looking at other African countries who require air conditioning. But power, the investments happening now in Kenya are seeing stabilization of power. The power stability in Kenya now is becoming very good. 5 years ago, there were fluctuations in power, but with the kind of investments in all other generations, especially the geothermal generation of power in Kenya, because we have a lot of geothermal power, it has stabilized the power. And those of you who have gone to Kenya of late, you rarely experience any power blackout. So I can authoritatively say stability of power in Kenya now, we are achieving it.
Next question is very often asked question is that why Indian business is going down and Chinese business is going up?
I may not ask, I think we need to ask ourselves, all of us, not only a technocrat from Kenya. I think I would ask you, Indian community, that why are your businesses going down in Kenya and the Chinese going up? I need to throw back that question. Though my responsibility here is to help one another change the situation. That is my brief. Let us change the situation. Otherwise, the issue of competitiveness, we need to look at that. Let us look at the model we are using as an Indian business community. One thing I would want to sneak to you as far as the Indian community is you need to be open to partnerships. You know, it's good to tell each other the truth. You need to be open now to various partnerships in Kenya. Don't close in your partnerships, because there are partners there who know the terrain, the African terrain and everything else. Partner with them and move in with that. That is what the other competition is doing. Coming, getting a local partner and running with the business. So you also need to come and partner with the locals who know the terrain. They will help you. You give them 15, 20%. You run with 80% and the business grows. And that cuts across Africa.
I'm combining two questions. India, Gujarat is doing Vibrant Gujarat programs to enhance business and giving support to the industry. Do Kenya government provide any financial support or such thing, and also to farmers, irrigation, solar pump, etc. So what kind of facilities given by the Kenyan government for the setting up of business? Any financial support?
Any financial support, I can say there's no direct financial support by government, but there are incentives, which could be in terms of taxation and facilitation. But financial support in irrigation and what have you, there is no design for that. That one I have to be very honest about it.
So I think, yeah.
He has reminded me, and unless we talk of the government now coming up with or putting aside 700 acres of land for lease. So, and because most of it is government land, you'll realize that the rate of lease may not be like if you are leasing it from private people. So, such concessions are available now by the government. Otherwise, direct financial gain is not there.
Good evening, sir. Sir, we are from hospitality background. Okay,
Hospitality.
Hospitality, like restaurants, pubs, food outlets. So, what kind of scope you have in Kenya for us? Like, what support will government give if we try to open up a hotel or a restaurant or food outlets in Kenya? Particularly, we are keen in Mombasa. We are. So, what kind of support you think you can provide us there?
Hospitality is also an area of investment because right now Kenya is promoting tourism, and we are seeing tourism now growing. More specifically, India-Kenya tourism is growing. And having a strong Indian community going, it is easy for an Indian hospitality industry to appeal to an Indian market from India traveling there. So there is opportunity in the tourism industry. As I told you, as any other investor, you will simply enjoy the incentives which have been put together for investors. There is no specific package. If you are in hospitality industry, you will get specifically certain incentives, but there are incentives generally for the investors in Kenya. If you are looking at the coastal area of Mombasa, this is the right time to invest because the pricing there is now right. But I would also encourage you to look at the tourist circuit areas like Masai Mara, to invest also there. And then even Nairobi, because Nairobi now have shortage of accommodation because of the position it is taking globally in terms of conferencing. So it
we
is
did that survey. There is shortage of rooms in Kenya.
Yes. So for me, and if you go to Ken Invest now, when you talk of you wanting to invest in hospitality industry like hotels, they will definitely tell you and give you facts and say, instead of going to Mombasa, you would rather put up an hotel in Nairobi because the shortage is there. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Last two questions. How much minimum investment is required if we want to set up machinery manufacturing plant in Kenya, and how we find local partners in Kenya?
That's a difficult one. The minimum investment actually depends on the level of factory you would want to. But I think as a country, they have not put, because you can come in as an SME, you can come in as a cottage industry player, you can come in as a big industrial player. So it depends on which level you would want to come in at. So there is actually no minimum investment we are talking. It will depend on the kind of investment you would want to put in. The second part was?
Yeah, one architect is asking that he's going to Nairobi in March for a restaurant design. What other opportunities can he explore? He's going for restaurant design in Nairobi in March, the architect. Local partner.
Oh, local partner, yes, that was the point. If it is SME, it is much, that is what we are focusing on in Kenya, and you will find out that there is even an infrastructure. Now, we have KIE, Kenya Industrial Estates, which promotes small-scale industrial enterprises, which is available. It can be linked, and even there, if you want partners, when you come to Ken Invest, they have a website where you can access partners who are interested, especially KIE, because they give loans. They will definitely direct you to the people who are who have brought to them proposals on investment in that sector, and you can be brought together. And then again, such seminars, which need now to move from India to Kenya, will definitely bring you in contact with necessary partners to partner with. But partners are there, and there are very many.
Just to add this, there is a national chamber also, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industries. They have already B2B meetings. So if you approach them, they will have a list. In fact, the delegation which is going, we are also meeting them. So maybe you can put a request to AMA for your interest, and maybe AMA can come back to you after their visit. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. The last question, sir, is what is the scope of corporate training, coaching for leadership development in Kenya?
It is, we have training needs, and we have identified, and we have an MOU between Kenya and India on training. So what could happen is, if you have management training programs here, and you want to undertake in Kenya, it is good to do it through the Ministry of External Affairs, because by doing that, I think there are even facilitation by the Indian government. We have programs, there is the funding by the Indian government to help train or capacity build Africa. And with our discussion with the Ministry of External Affairs, we know we have programs for capacity building, of which, if you want to partake of it, we should share information so that we can link you also with the Indian authorities who can facilitate you in training. Because even as we speak now, they are encouraging training to be taken back to the country, as opposed to sponsoring trainers to come to India, because it is more expensive to sponsor many trainers, but it is easier to sponsor 2 or 3 trainers to go and train in the country. So that is happening now, but there is opportunity for training, both through the government and even privately. Thank you.
You can ask him after the program, yes.
I think Mr. Fred is here, so maybe you can ask question to him, and you can always contact the embassy for further questions. Before I conclude, I would request Rajiv Bhai to facilitate His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett with a memento. Thank you so much, His Excellency Mr. Willy Bett, for accepting invitation of AMA and coming and talking on business and investment opportunity of Kenya in front of the delegates from various industries. Thank you, audience, and thank you, AMA, for, on Kenya's behalf, I'm saying thank you, AMA, for providing this platform to this wonderful nation. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.